All right, moving on. Next we have Dave Goldstein. He's the owner and chief meteorologist of Alaska Weather Consulting. And we're going to be talking about, guess what, Prince William Sound weather, which is always sunny. And I think Dave's, there he is.
Thank you very much. Can people here in the back hear okay? If you could just raise your hand. Okay, so I'll speak a little louder. Thanks for coming here. I also live in Whittier here full-time. I've been in Alaska for close to 50 years, practicing weather, forecasting weather, managing organizations that deal with weather, and that's complemented by 8 years back on the East Coast, either going to school or working for the National Weather Service back in the Washington, D.C. area. It's been a lot of years and a lot of experience, and fortunately I've got some of that I can still remember. If we can start the presentation. Okay, this of course is Prince William Sound. Everybody's familiar with that. We'll go through this fairly quickly and then there'll be plenty of time for questions later. Two things: observations, surface observations, radar observations. All of these are key components of putting together a forecast. Balloon observations, and finally satellite observations. Those are from geostationary and also polar orbiting satellites. Observations, at least surface observations, are typically assembled in a map form. This happens to be the Alaska Ocean Observing System. And if you look very carefully, you can see different colors and arrows. They've assembled data from a lot of different sources. The arrows are the wind direction, and the colors represent speeds. The Marine Exchange, which is located in southeast Alaska, also has weather information. Specifically here in Passage Canal on this picture, the Aurora was actually reporting. If you look down in Seward, the Tustumena was also. It actually has a camera for over in Chiniga. National Weather Service puts out a collection of information, actually using some of the data sources that the other organizations have. And that's just an excellent source of information. You can zoom in on this, you can overlay data fields on top of this, you can select what you want to look at. What else goes into a forecast? Well, again, some of this is review, but this happens to be from Saturday evening, weather front south of Prince William Sound. Stirred up the winds quite a bit. This happened to be a visible picture. Of course, the corresponding radar picture, which is from the radar at Middleton Island, also the radar over at Kenai, and you can see the effects of that. One issue here with the radar I'll point out after the slideshow is over. General use of National Weather Service forecasts. These are excellent beginning tools, giving you a fairly good idea of what's going on. On their page here, they have color codes here for strong winds, less strong winds, and of course, no significant winds. If you look at some of the differences between National Weather Service and private forecasts, you have advanced forecast technology, 24 hours a day, advanced dissemination technology, wide customer base, dedicated forecast offices, some of the pitfalls, forecaster bias, enormous coverage areas, data network gaps, staffing in Alaska especially, limited ability to fine-tune forecasts. Private companies can put out more tailored forecasts. This happens to be our website, Alaska Weather Consulting. We put out a local Whittier forecast, and we also consult as far as other organizations. Weather Observation Links, which is available on this website, basically has 4 different types of information. I thought I'd throw this in too for everybody who doesn't think that there are tornadoes in Alaska. Actually, the farthest north tornado ever recorded in Alaska was just inland from Kotzebue. These are some of the useful weather websites, and I can go ahead and send copies of this out if you'd like. I thought let's go ahead and look at the next season, or what's anticipated. On the bottom left-hand portion, this is from the National Weather Service. It was basically assembled April 18th. You can see that as far as precipitation, the expectation is during this whole 3-month period we'll have a little bit above normal. Temperatures, just about normal, at least in the Prince William Sound area. What's really interesting is the above normal temperatures in the western part of the U.S. Actually, if you looked at the precipitation, it was very, very significant back on the East Coast. This happens to come from the European model, and these are, again, seasonal type forecasts for June, July, and August. You can see over much of south central Alaska, either near normal or maybe slightly above. And this actually is in September, so you can see that actually we're expecting below normal precipitation in September, which may be good for those late season expeditions. As we continue here, this is June, and then as we go to July, you can see a little bit of a change. Southeast Alaska looks pretty, well, much less wet, I should put. And here, as far as July, again, over much of the Kenai Peninsula, at least on the west side, probably a little bit below normal precipitation, a little bit above normal precipitation in Prince William Sound. And in August, again, that pattern kind of continues, a little bit less on the Kenai Peninsula than over in July. If we look at the temperatures, you can see that the general summer is actually expected to be fairly warm. This one here, I think, is the September forecast, so looks like considerably less. Temperatures will be next. I think we have kind of a repeat here. Temperature forecasts over the area will be significantly different. The May period, below normal temperatures, of course above normal precipitation. This particular one in June shows a little bit higher than normal temperatures expected in that southern Copper River Basin, near normal in Prince William Sound. Again, as you get to July, a little bit more than normal, a little bit higher temperatures. August, more of a trend towards normal temperatures. And this happens to be, actually this is available on the website also, it's pretty much of the year-round climate normals. So when you take all of this information and apply it to the diagram here, you can get a fairly good idea of how these temperatures will pan out. At any rate, if you have any questions, now would be a good time to ask them. We can go back over specific slides. If you would like to email, of course, the email address is on there too. Yeah. It's akwxconsulting.com.
Where to go to get this Whittier?
It's on the internet.
How accurate and really helpful it is.
Thanks, Kelly. Always good to get a plug in for that. Thank you. And the climate averages, as you can see here, fairly well depicted. Interesting, if we can kind of scroll towards the bottom there, a little bit further down. Yeah, you'll actually see on that second from the bottom there, just above the bottom, if you look at the snowfall back in those areas, of course, the summertime you wouldn't expect very much snow, although we did get some in here in May. And also the amount of daylight that we actually get during the year. And there's a fairly close correlation between, of course, the amount of daylight that we get, the solar insolation, and the maximum temperatures. A couple of points here that I just wanted to make here. When you look at a radar chart, you might infer that, oh, if there are no echoes in an area, there is no precipitation. Not necessarily so, because a radar, when it sends out a beam, the beam is on a slant. So the further you get away from the radar site, usually the higher that beam is. And if there are clouds or light precipitation below where that beam is sensing clouds or trying to sense clouds, you won't get any returns. When you look at some of the radar pictures, on the one diagram that we showed here from Saturday, There was a bright band of yellow in along with the green, and oftentimes what that indicates is your freezing level. There's ice or snow mixed in with the rain. The other point that I want to make here is a lot of the information that you can access, whether it's through the National Weather Service, whether it's through the Alaska Ocean Observing System, when you look at the surface observations, most of the time you can click on it and you can get a more comprehensive summary of what those particular conditions are. But the big danger is in trying to take what's going on at one point and spread it out over a whole big area to another data point, which is totally different. Weather, especially in land areas and even in Prince William Sound, where you have islands, or maybe Perry Island or Culross Island, or going down Culross Pass or going to Kings Bay, weather can be quite different depending upon where you go. I know Kelly and some other folks here run charter businesses, and one of the basic guidelines here is, in a situation where there are pretty strong southeast winds, once you get down to the southern part of Knight Island or the southern part of Montague Sound, usually you don't have very much wind at all. Some tips as far as weather indicators or changing weather: if you see clouds rolling down a mountain, or basically starting to accumulate on mountaintops and then start rolling down, good time to get out of the way. We do have thunderstorms in Prince William Sound. Typically, these thunderstorms occur in the spring, more like in the fall, when you have a lot of cold air aloft. The water temperatures are fairly warm. The surface temperatures near the water are fairly warm, and there's a lot of instability. Sometimes you will see, actually, in the summertime over the land areas, the thunderstorms develop over there. Usually when they get out over the water, because of the cooler nature of the water, they tend to dissipate. But I've actually seen funnel clouds basically indicating a possible small tornado in some of the areas around Prince William Sound also. So just be very, very weather conscious, weather aware, and just always check before you go out. Any other questions? Yeah, Kelly.
Make another comment, because I think a lot of people here probably use Windy, and Windy has no effect in Passage Canal. It's not correct. It's not small enough. So the NOAA Passage Canal and Dave's Whittier forecast is probably your best local resources.
Thanks. And actually, there are many computer models. There's a high-resolution model that is produced by the National Weather Service. There's another North American model, which is a little bit less resolution. And there's another, the global model, which is fairly general. We also have access to European models. We have access to UK Met models, Japanese weather models, and even Canadian models. Also, Canada runs their own weather service there too. Yeah, Lay.
How do they come up with predictions for months in advance than weeks over?
Well, they've got a big quarter, and they flip it and, call it before it hits the ground. No, there's quite a bit of study here on the interaction between ocean temperatures and the air temperatures and the atmospheric temperatures. During the wintertime, there's a much higher correlation between what's going on at the ocean level and what's going on in the atmosphere. Everybody's heard of the El Nino and the La Nino events, and there's also the teleconnection there between a lot of these different systems. All of the information is usually put into climatological models. And they basically start with initial conditions or what's been going on over the last couple of weeks, and then they kind of project this out in time. A lot of it is, if you noticed here, the output from the European model and from the National Weather Service, there were some subtle differences in there, but the basic information was fairly similar. Okay, well, thanks for your time. I think Lee has some exercises over here, and as I say, if anybody wants a copy of this, either through the websites or links, you're more than welcome to just send an email and be happy to send it to you. Thanks again.
Thanks, Dave.